if you think about the entire process of evolution and natural selection, where part of a population has a specific gene where it means that the giraffe, for instance, is able to reach the taller trees and get more fruit, and all the ones that can't die out, and that's how natural selection works. But the stronger sort of breed of giraffe, for instance, is then sort of made more abundant by reproduction, and more giraffes can get at all of the tallest trees, and no one is sort of left starving. So it seems to work out fine in the end. Things like cancers and all that sort of stuff, all of this relies on genetic mutations. Humans only really exist due to genetic mutations consistently, sporadically happening throughout our time. And now from ape, we've come to a more advanced and modern species that is able to consciously think, work together as a team, and do things that no sort of animal would be able to do, even though we derived from those kind of things. Genetic mutations are the cause of all of that, and genetic mutations arise during cell division. When a cell needs to divide in two because maybe you're a baby and you're growing, or it's a muscle cell and it needs to split to make the muscle bigger in the end. When a cell divides, chromosomes must be copied. Now, chromosomes exist in the sort of nucleoplasm part of the DNA, and all these chromosomes must divide and replicate themselves and duplicate themselves to mean that two cells can be formed. Now, chromosomes are made up of your DNA, and your DNA must be copied. So the DNA, the double helix, what it will do is it will sort of split open, and then from that, messages and transporter molecules will bring the opposite base from the single DNA strand, and then it will like copy it from then on. So you'll end up with two whole DNA strands from one. So you're copying the DNA. The problem is that during this process, mutations can occur. And this is where the wrong base exists on the copy DNA strand, not the original DNA strand, but the copy DNA strand. Nitrogenous bases that exist inside of your DNA, they pair up in a weird sort of way. So adenine would always pair with thymine, and you've got guanine that will always pair with cytosine. But what if, when the DNA is being copied, adenine is accidentally paired up with cytosine? That's a bit of a problem. So now instead of a T being there on the copy DNA strand, as it should be, there is a C. And this means that during protein synthesis, when the new cell that has the wrongly copied DNA, that DNA will have to be copied into mRNA, and that mRNA will be used to make proteins during protein synthesis. But because this one singular base is wrongly coded, that's going to then be wrongly coded into the mRNA, and then that's going to be potentially wrongly coded into a specific amino acid. I've mentioned in the protein synthesis video that I did how proteins are coded. There's little things known as codons, which is a group of 3 nitrogenous bases. These 3 nitrogenous bases will be used to pair up to one amino acid. But some proteins, to be coded, can have multiple versions of a codon. For instance, glycine can have 4, maybe even 6 codons. Leucine, I'm pretty sure, can have 6 codons. If the base that's been wrongly coded, for instance, if AUG was accidentally now ACG or something like that, that could be completely wrong and that could be an impossibility. But if AUG and both ACG coded to leucine, that protein would be fine, and the mutation that happened would have absolutely zero damage to the protein. But if it ended up meaning that that codon with the wrongly coded base ends up coding for a whole new amino acid, that protein is going to be completely screwed. That means that the enzyme that protein could have potentially been is now just wrong, and it's just a waste of sort of time and energy and space for your body. But these mutations can lead to better things to happen. That one singular, or there's probably many mutations that occur in the human body at any given time, but that one couple of mutations could mean that protein is able to digest something that it wasn't able to digest before, or something like that. And that's how the whole natural selection process works. These sort of things are accidentally uncovered, and the mutation means that this sort of accidental part of the population is able to pass on its genes because it's able to survive better in its environment and outcompete all the other ones that just have a normal gene. But unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way, and mutations can be dangerous. While it can create good proteins, it can also create bad proteins as well, which is how cancers form. Now, I don't know the exact mechanisms, what things need to happen, etc., but it will be wrongly coded amino acids that mean this protein exists in the cell and it's going to start rapidly dividing and all that sort of stuff. Loads of things will happen in between the stage of the wrong protein being coded and cancer forming. But carcinogens, which are chemicals that cause cancer, they cause the sort of wrongly coded base when a cell division occurs, and they'll get into the cell, they'll get into the nucleus, and it will like attach to a base, which means that the wrong base is going to like continue to be put on, and it's going to create a whole new protein that's going to be just completely wrong, and that's going to mean the cancers are more likely to occur. And what I'm about to say now is a very hard thing to phrase, but cancer's been around for a while, even before carcinogens existed. So cancer can happen randomly, and there doesn't have to be any carcinogens involved. Carcinogens will not always cause cancer, because the mutations don't always have an effect. It can have a good effect, it can have a bad effect. Not to say that's mean you should just start like having lots of carcinogens because it's going to give you superpowers or something. That's really not what I'm trying to say here. But a carcinogen isn't always going to cause cancer, and cancers are not always caused by carcinogens. That's what I'm trying to get through to you. And that's about all I have to say on genetic mutations. With that, I recommend subscribing, because I love this community of young tribal people who are willing to improve themselves so much more than we already have, and good luck.